Three, two, one. Let's go, Neal! All right, that was
round two.
Yes, that worked. I am the host of PBE podcast, Troy Tittlemeyer, of course, joined by the Skips, the man, and a co-host. Sir, how are you? How are the arches? How's the weather?
Arches are great. Beautiful day out here again. I mean, fantastic. You can just see right through.
Wi-Fi's on point.
Wi-Fi is great. With everyone out of this national park, it's I'm having free reign right now. It's fantastic.
Well, man, we just had a badass show with Mr. Neal Turluck. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Troy. It's good to be here.
Man,
pleasure to have you back.
It's good to be back. Sometimes in life, you don't get do-overs. You don't get a second chance. Thank God.
At PBE,
for all of this.
At PBE, we're about second chances.
Yeah. The silver medal of life.
Exactly.
Dude, and this show was really, really cool on many levels, man. I'm a fan of Neal Turluck. I think you have the right attitude. I think the things you say on LinkedIn and the things that you say in conversation, honestly, just a solid young professional, good attitude, man. And the show was really about that. You persevered through two crashes, the latest two crashes, the oil and gas industry in the Permian from Michigan. Did it twice. You're now back in Michigan, and you still have the optimistic attitude that, one, we've talked about in the show. We have a great career as geoscientists, no question about it. Whether we're going to rely on cryptocurrency or the Federal Reserve of the US dollar, we have a future as geoscientists providing a value, a physical value of natural resources to the planet. And that's what this show was really all about, man. And I love that.
Yeah. The world is out there for our taking. And these are the times when people who are coming from nowhere, essentially. I'm sitting in a little village it's called Richland, Michigan. The last time I saw, there's 700 some odd people. The village itself is 1 square mile. To start from the bottom and to climb the ladder, it is a lot easier for people who have nothing to start off in a downturn. So for me, I see this as a great opportunity because I'm starting from the bottom and now we're here and I'm climbing, and there's no reason for any of us out there as geoscientists to see what's happening now as a negative, because you can turn what will be, a lot of economic loss into something that is for the greater good. Things can become more streamlined. Those who are innovative will be able to see and be able to find a way into the future and to be able to process what used to be quick. They'll be able to process it much faster. And, cryptocurrency, blockchain is the way to turn what's an antiquated system into a new way of life by using technology and by, helping to push the industry of both, oil and gas, mining and metals, environmental, everything that's involved with all of that is, primarily based upon the earth, our ability to work with it, and introducing technology. So the way that, the paper and the way that business is done, hopefully will start moving towards the past into a more technologically advanced route like smart contracts and blockchain.
Got to be naive to think that it's not going in that direction. It certainly is. Skippo, what was one of your favorite parts of the show we just did?
I mean, just discussing and going into detail as far as what is cryptocurrency and specifically Bitcoin and how, and just kind of breaking down, and making it simple for someone who is extremely unfamiliar and kind of standoffish against cryptocurrency. How do you, like you said, how do you find value into something that isn't tangible, right? But in reality, all currency is intangible nowadays, right? We do have cash, but at the end of the day, the majority of the work being done is online, just online banking, right? Through direct deposits and just moving money around that way. And just kind of explaining, okay, what these are the benefits of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever have you, and all the really cool things that you can bolt on with that. right?
Yeah.
And all the implications that can mean for the future.
Yeah. No, spot on, man. Well said by both you guys. For me, it was this epiphany, I guess, of the environment and the issues that everybody's dealing with, the problems that we all have right now. It's all being rebuilt. That's what it feels like. And I'm naturally an optimist, and I'm an economic geologist, so I'm naturally an optimist. But it feels like it's rebuilding, and now we have these tools that are complementing the people who are rebuilding this thing. And that's how I see cryptocurrency. It is it's a complementary piece to what we do as professionals, and where we see this progression of building a new system that can't be broken down. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're getting after, man. And so that this show is badass. This show is awesome.
Yeah.
Neal's fucking awesome. You just listen to the whole thing. It's entertaining, and let's just get this show started. What do you guys think?
Game on. Let's get into it.
Rock and roll.
As we are starting the conception part of the PBE podcast with Neal Turluck, and this is the re-record section or session of the damn show, because we're just geoscientists trying to make a podcast, man. we're not tech, and we found out the hard way, and we won't make that mistake again. But
yeah, we're not studio engineers. We're still trying to get this remote thing down, and a couple bumps in the road, but Neal's cool enough to come back on and give an hour or two of his time to get back into the weeds within the Michigan Basin and Bitcoin again.
Digging in deep.
Hell
Digging
yeah.
in deep.
Hell yeah, Neal. Let's start with conception. We got to get to know you, man. Like, again, let's talk as if we're just in a room with geoscientists, engineers, and you're saying who you are, man. What's up, Neal? And where you come from? What's your perspective on this thing?
Well, my name's Neal, and I'm a geologist by education, a petrophysicist by training, and a geophysicist at heart. I love it all, man. If you could throw some data at me and let me nerd out, looking at rocks through Excel spreadsheets and putting those Excel spreadsheets into software, and then analyzing and interpreting whatever rock bodies I'm looking at using fancy software, I'd be a pretty happy guy. I've seen a lot of gamma ray and different kind of logs, mostly interpreting soft rocks, sedimentary structures, the petroleum system, and using those rocks to get a up close personal look at reservoirs beneath our feet. So I got a master's degree from Western Michigan University,
right?
Bachelor's degree from Western Michigan University. I took a short tour down to Texas in the fall of 2015. I went to Sul Ross State University for a semester, and then transferred to University of Texas of the Permian Basin, UTPB, Odessa, Texas.
Falcons up.
Falcons up, man. Falcons up. You just missed it. So what school did you do the IBA competition with? Because if you were on the IBA team with Skips, we would have fucking won the entire thing. Skips, can you back me up on that?
Dude, 100%. 100%. We had one more like stone cold geologist on the team. It would have been that love looking at data. It would have been lights out. It would have been absolute lights out.
Fortunately, I was at Western Michigan University. Well, fortunately, I was at Western Michigan University because the team I was on was top notch. We were totally a bunch of cool dudes, a cool chick, all throwing down. One of the guys was had worked at Schlumberger, so we knew Petrel in and out.
What? That's against the rules.
I'm lying. But it's over now.
No one needs to know.
Dude.
Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone.
That's not the Rocky Mountain section. That's got to be the
eastern section.
Yeah, so you're with Penn State. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, they won, of course. That was 2018.
Oh, that was 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Skippo, when did you competed in
I competed in 18.
It was also really? 2018.
I think so.
Wow.
Well,
hold on.
Yeah, because I moved out to the Permian in 17, and then I competed in IBA that next spring. So yeah.
Wow.
It had to have been 18. Yeah.
Did you guys get the same data set?
No, we had totally different data sets.
Yeah.
We didn't get to
offshore play.
Yeah, we didn't get to see the data set that they had at nationals because they presented before us. But Yeah, they beat us. They beat us on the podium by 2 points.
Penn State.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
They were tough.
They took that third podium slot.
Dude, I remember sitting there and the announcements were being made. I'm going, all right, if you guys didn't get third, you must have got second or first.
When they were announcing, when they didn't say third, when they didn't say second, we were like ready to jump for joy.
You guys are convinced too.
We had, our professor as an advisor. One of our other advisors, another professor, had owned and sold an oil company and was just at Western essentially to get insurance and a pension.
That's the retirement plan.
Yeah. Then there was another guy too who was an oil guy from Shell.
You guys had some good help.
And those, we did our presentation in front of the entire department, and everyone told us we're going to go knock it out. And, first place was ours in the bag. And then we didn't place. We didn't even get third.
Didn't even get third in the regional sections.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. We were all really depressed. We went to the casino in Pittsburgh, and we ate our lives away. We got free buffet.
Dude,
so then
that reminds me of the Utah thing. We ended up we were in the whole thing, and UTV had a chance to win the entire thing in the second year ever competing, or third year ever competing, and we lost. We didn't get it. We didn't even place. It was what it was. But remember the limo ride to the border? we got a limo ride, full range. From this dude was going like 110 in this old ass white limo, had this big old mustache that was all curly. Dude, he was.
It was like you can smell the gasoline coming out of the back. Like it was like inside the limo. You're like, I'm pretty sure like I might die in this limo. I'm getting kind of nauseous.
That thing was from the freaking 90s.
Surrounded by your best friends.
It was good people. It was definitely good people. We drove all the way to the border of Utah to wait a minute. Yeah,
Nevada.
Utah, Nevada.
Yeah, we drove. Yeah, we went from Salt Lake City to the border town right there in Nevada. And you know how every Nevada border town is just casinos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so.
This thing stole our souls. Unfortunately, nobody made money.
Yeah,
But we got a limo ride out there, man.
Hey, we're paying into the local economy. We're providing jobs for the future. That's the way I look at it.
That's what
I
happened.
can only imagine the economy in northern Utah and southern Nevada.
Oh man, yeah, we walked in, it was pretty rough. You could tell it was definitely pretty rough, and it was an experience. We stopped at the big Great Salt Lake dried up bed. What do they call that? The
Bonneville Salt Flats.
Oh, Bonneville
Salt
Flats. Yeah.
I mean, the limo guy was ready to take the limo out there. He's like,
you guys want to go?
Let's bomb this thing out there. So we grabbed a bottle of whiskey and drove. We walk out to the salt flats. I'm going to show the picture when we actually produce this. We're taking shots of this thing. The limo driver didn't take shots, but he was driving like he did. And I
like I didn't have a team member with Schlumberger on IBA either, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That guy sounds like an alcoholic.
I stepped in a freaking salt puddle like this big. My pants were just white on one leg. I was like rubbing it, trying to clean it all night. Anyway,
and it just got like wider and wider and wider.
Yeah,
and just like more and more obvious as the night went on, until like salt crystals like started to form like on your shorts,
my shoes, my pants.
Yeah.
I was stupid because I'm looking at the
geology in action, in real life.
I was just too excited. I was too excited about being out there. Wasn't paying attention where I was walking and just thump, splash. What the hell was that? Anyway, man, that sparked up a random thought. That was fun, man. That was fun. You guys, you both worked your asses off on this 8-week just craziness that is the IBA. But man, what an experience. You know what I mean? What an experience. You guys know exactly what I mean.
Yeah, I went from, the experience that I had before was mud logging in 2016, 2017, down in the Permian for a company called Impact Exploration. And I was sitting on a bunch of Apache wells in their Alpine high play. So I got to know gamma ray really well, correlating that between the samples I saw and kind of realizing the difference between what makes a shale, what makes a siltstone, what makes a sandstone, and seeing it in gamma ray.
Sure.
and then hand digitizing a bunch of gamma ray files for the IBA competition.
So I was going to ask, you were the petrophysicist for the IBA competition then?
Yeah.
Nice.
Taught myself everything from, Archie's equation, doing all the porosity, permeability, analyzing the sonic logs, doing crossovers, literally just Googling what I could Google, asking people if they could send me information from training manuals from people from LinkedIn, and just grinding through late nights on top of having school and my own research project for my master's thesis.
Woo!
Yeah, man, that was 2018, that spring semester when it ended.
Man.
Holy cow. Winter 2018, a lot of work.
Pick one thing that it helped you develop as a professional or helped you as a person. That experience of just absolute grind mode, which, oh man, I can imagine.
Well, there's the work. There's two. Can I say two?
Yeah, let's do it.
I have to pick two.
Top
There's
two.
two.
Top two.
One is just realizing the scale, because we were analyzing and interpreting an offshore play in the North Sea, and the scale was something I hadn't really realized before. Just how big those projects are, and what one well can do and what one well can destroy, and utilizing my time well.
Time management.
Some graduate students can slough off and do absolutely nothing for weeks at a time, throw stuff together and come up with something presentable. I had no option to do that, because if I wasn't putting my time to its best use, I'm putting my master's thesis behind, and then I'm putting my other teammates behind too.
Right.
So at the end of that semester, I had to have, a thesis pretty much, well, not my master's thesis prepared, but just the defense prepared. And then I also had to have all my slides, and working with our geomodeler, doing all the seismitize and stuff like that. I had to have those slides ready to present before my thesis. So, the time management that it took for me to wake up, get out of bed, go do whatever I had to do, get to class, work out everything between, and find time to sleep at night, made me realize, it pushed me to a whole nother level.
Yeah. That's I'm assuming that Skippo's got to have a pretty similar answer to that, and we talked about it before. But out of all of that, you certainly find out who has the kind of the primitive or the intuitive skill set to be a geoscientist. If it does wake you up before your alarm goes off, or when you wake up, you're immediately thinking about the objectives that you have in front of you to get your degree, get the pass all the grades, plus compete in the IBA. If you have that, you're a geoscientist. If you don't, you need to seriously reevaluate what you're trying to do with the rest of your life, because you're not going to love what you do.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
I think IBA too puts it in a really good perspective for any graduate student wanting to go into oil and gas or go into even economic geology, right? At the end of the day, you need to use, what you've learned as a geoscientist to sell a prospect, right? That's all you're doing at the end of the day, right? You're going to your management or you're going to an investor and you're selling this, and you're using the knowledge that you have in order to put this prospect together into something that they're like, oh yeah, here's $100 million. Go out there and drill that well.
Right. Go make the 500. Yep.
So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway for people who do IBA, is not only the time management, not only the ability to communicate effectively with others, but understanding as a geoscientist wanting to go into either energy or into like economic geology, like it's fun to look at rocks. We all love to look at rocks, right? That's why we're geoscientists. But at the end of the day, how are you going to make this company money? Yeah. That's the key. And how are you going to be able to effectively, tell that information to people who are extremely technical and people who are not very technical?
Yeah.
I think that's a very important distinction to make too.
Well said, sir. Well said. Now you have a couple of stints in the Permian Basin, man. What was your first impression And what is your impression now of the Permian Basin?
Well, first impression, Permian Basin was on a geology club field trip. I think that was in like 2012. I went on a bunch of geology club field trips.
Nice.
And we started in Michigan and we drove straight to the Big Bend National Park. So that was a 28-hour drive or something crazy, right? We all took turns sleeping, driving, sleeping. And when we were going through North of Marathon, probably through, well, it was probably, Odessa and then Fort Stockton.
Yeah.
I was half asleep. I saw almost none of it.
Oh, wow.
And when I woke up, it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. And they're like, Neal, you're missing it. There are all these drilling rigs, man. And I'm like, you guys didn't wake me up. And they're like, no. And I saw lights way up in the distance. And this was still north of Marathon. And it was down like, oh, wow. I'd never seen an active drilling rig making oil before.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
there it was. It was pretty cool.
All the flares.
So-
What year was this? 2012?
2012.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, the flares must have been out of control.
I don't remember seeing flares, but then again,
What?
I'm sitting here 8 years later. I just remember seeing the lights of the rigs. So we get to Marathon, and Marathon, I don't know if either of you two have been to Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Marathon.
Oh, it's great. It's like a cowboy town. You roll in, it's dusty. There's nothing. There's no one. There's one main drag. There's a hotel and just like a taco place, a taqueria. And then you keep on going down the road to the Big Bend National Park.
Okay.
And I was like, this is every cowboy movie I've ever seen. And I'm in the middle of it right now.
What were you guys doing in Big Bend? What were you looking at?
It was just geology. We didn't have a professor or anything. It was just
Nice.
us students bombing around together. We climbed the peak, Chisos Basin. I forget the peak name. Emory
Peak?
No.
Sounds cool.
Emory Peak?
I don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. The only name that I know off the dome is Ernst Naha, because that's like the most famous thing there. But other than that, yeah, the names are.
Well,
Emory Peak might be the top of Guadalupe. Either way,
Yeah.
whatever.
Hey,
Yeah,
I
we
believe
just,
you 100%.
we just climbed the highest peak in the national park, and then walked around, looked at rocks. Recognized that a lot of it was volcanic. I wasn't even thinking that anything that I'd see would be volcanic. I thought it would just all be sedimentary rocks because I'm in Texas. And we drove around the park for another day, stopping and looking at all the different signs. There were one of the places had dinosaur fossils. Another spot had an explanation of the Big Bend National Park geology, and it was recent. It's all Rio Grande Rift. So 30 million years ago and less even, there's been lava flows, volcanoes exploding for 10, 15 million years.
it's the eastern edge of the Farallon Plate subducting, right? From the west. That Farallon Plate was making its way across West United States, and it's the easternmost volcanics related to that subducting plate, I think, in the ages of that. There's basically a subducting plate on the west side of the Permian Basin. Isn't that kind of wild?
Yeah.
So you got a perspective of the Permian. You kind of went through there, ran the mountains ragged. Then you have an opportunity to do some mud logging.
Yeah. So that, not that, 4 years later, yes, 3 years later, I went to Sul Ross State in Alpine, Texas, because I was so impressed with the Big Bend National Park. I had to go back. The geology's insane. There's however many, the marathon, there's a marathon basin and there's a marathon fold belt. It's from like Wachita orogeny, all that Valeron plate stuff, mountain building events from the Laramide orogeny, all that kind of just stresses come in and combine themselves in the southwest, deep west Texas. And I wanted to go see it, go do it, write it, chart it, plot it, map it, explain it, learn it, know it. And I get to Silver Rock State, and it's great. It's in Alpine. Alpine's a beautiful, beautiful town. It's the county seat of the biggest county in the world, really, because who else has counties besides the United States? But biggest county in the U.S. in Texas, Brewster County.
Yeah, Brewster County, right? I was like,
Wow.
Brewster. It's like, I was like, it's either Brewster or Jeff Davis. I was like, I should know this.
Jeff Davis is tiny. That's just no. That too is Jeff Davis is gigantic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Brewster County, it's exciting being there. There's just the whole world. I mean, you've got something that's bigger than like Connecticut and Maine, or well, maybe not Maine, but Connecticut and Rhode Island and some other state. There's like, you can fit 3 states inside Brewster County.
Damn.
So
ain't nothing there.
No, nothing. Well, there's really good geology. There's volcanic flows. There's sedimentary deposition. There's sedimentary deposition within volcanic flows.
The Marfa Lights.
The Marfa Lights. I think that's in Jeff Davis County.
Is that Jeff Davis? Well, the Marfa Basin's got to be in Brewster, right?
It might be.
It's west of. It's like west southwest of Alpine. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, so that's it's getting there.
So that would be like, it's more Jeff Davis.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Marfa Lights? Did you go and look at those?
I've seen the Marfa Lights. I saw those in the winter of 2018, 2019.
What'd you think?
I went on a winter break vacation to go check out the basin with a lady friend of mine, and she was not impressed. I was impressed. And the Marfa Lights are nuts, man. All of a sudden you're sitting there and you see something off in the distance.
That's right. What is that, man? What is that? What is that? What did you just do?
That's the Marfa Lights in action.
You have to see the Marfa Lights to understand what that means.
You know, if you know Dale Gribble, he does he
Gribble.
can explain everything. Dale Gribble. Sounds familiar, right? Very famous Texan.
What's his explanation?
I feel like I've heard the name, but I have no idea.
It's King of the Hill. It's a King of the Hill reference.
Oh, it's King of the Hill. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
What's his Does he talk about the Marfa Lights? Does he explain them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to go, to the deep tracks to go watch 300 King of the Hill episodes to find it.
All right, dude. So you get your first stint of the Permian done. It's blowing and going at the time. You went to Alpine, and then it crashes in 2015.
Oh, it died. Man, was I sad. And I decided to transfer to UTPB to try to get myself into a company in Midland or even Mudlog in my spare time. But nothing was happening, so I cut it. And I got out, and I met a bunch of people. I got involved with the WTGS as early as I could, and I kind of stayed in touch. So 2016, I'm back in Michigan, and I applied to Wayne State University in Detroit and Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo. And Western Michigan University has a core laboratory that has 500,000 feet of core data from around the Michigan Basin. Awesome. And I decided, since they've got everything I ever want to see and everything I ever want to do, and professional connections, Western Michigan back to the alma mater was my best bet. So I did that, started grad school, started trying to put the project together. And in that time, I was also reaching out to companies to try to start doing an internship thing. And that's when I got a hold of Impact. I met a bunch of those guys through WTGS, and then I went to Mudlog for Impact Exploration Services over my winter break in 2016 and 2017.
Yep.
Back to the Permian I went.
Wow. Wow.
That was a party. That was Alpine High, Apache.
Yeah.
Close back to my my home, away from home, Alpine, Texas. And I went back, visited some people, visited some friends of mine, Casey Mitchell, out there in the world.
Man.
Got that guy. And got to see, the world as it turned right as fast as they can sometimes, 300 feet an hour. Crazy.
Damn.
Yeah.
300 feet an hour, man. That's like dropping a bowling ball off the roof, man. That's insane.
Yeah, you want to talk about making a mudlogger mad. Start turning right as fast as you can and don't stop for 2 days.
Wow, 2 days they were holding that 300 feet an hour?
Maybe not always, but it sure feels like it.
Gosh, damn.
Yeah,
Man,
there's
that's
a couple
blowing
of
through some
times
rock.
where, yeah, they just don't stop. They just keep making holes. It's what they do. Drillers make hole.
Yeah.
So you were thinking at that point as a geologist, and you're at the front lines of this drill bit, and you're catching these cuttings, and you're trying to recreate the strat column and help the geologist for the company, the whole thing. You're thinking, you immediately realizing that the way we're blowing through this rock, we're not trying to recreate anything. We're trying to find a reservoir that's bleeding hydrocarbon, land that sumbitch, and let's get this production to surface.
Yeah.
Not
When I was
much
sitting out
else.
there, I got to see my first kick. So this was the third well that I was on, and they had pulled out to do intermediate casing, and then they're getting back on bottom. And when they got back on bottom, as the bit keeps going back down and, it turns off to the side, there's gas that builds up in all the mud. No matter how much you circulate, just the bit going down and all the pipe behind it pushing it through and condensing the mud creates a buildup of gas. And where we were was in a pretty gaseous area. So I wasn't collecting anything. I wasn't, really working because they weren't drilling, but I was making sure that when they got back to bottom, that the possum belly was clean, that my mud rotator was rotating, and all the lines were clear. And they told me to get away from the rig. They told me to get back to the trailer, and that they were taking a kick. And I'm like, oh shit, we're going to die.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. Right. I'm envisioning, in the movies where everything explodes and everything catches on fire. But I guess, it's pretty common. And then I had that same experience, twice. Once was pretty good this year in January in the Delaware Basin in New Mexico. There was a really big kick, but they had the flare going. The flare was probably 20 or 30 feet high. It was gigantic. But the reason I knew that we were taking a kick, the lights out. I've only worked night shift. There was light outside, and it was glowing orange inside the trailer.
Holy smoke!
Yeah.
Something like every 10 feet of a flare is 1 million cubic feet. Is that what I don't know. I remember somebody throwing out that number. So you're talking 3 million cubic feet.
That's an engineering thing.
Yeah. So
all I know that's a lot. That's a lot.
Dude.
That's all I gotta say.
I remember a guy talking about taking a nasty kick in North Dakota. He said everything was ice and snow, and they took this thing, and he said it was 100 feet high. I don't know, but you could just feel the heat. It was absolutely insane, and within an hour or so, it was all melted, and everything was mud. No one can get in or out.
Slush.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Just absolute chaos. Dude.
It happens.
Wow, man.
I guess it's kind of a good problem to have, but at the end of the day, definitely not ideal.
Right.
It's good for the operator. It's not good for the service employees who are out there in the field dealing with dangerous methane.
Exactly.
Yep. And it could have been a pocket of H2S that made a kick. Who knows? I mean, it goes to the point that we are just getting to the point in our geologic models and our concepts that can de-risk these kinds of things. Can we see it in the data? Can we make the predictions that no, don't put the well bore down there? It's going to have all kinds of mechanical problems because that's overpressured. You can predict this thing and make more economics out of the well and stay away from the danger. It's against our interest to put people in danger, but the geology and the reality of where we were for a long time is that we just didn't know. You didn't know until you drilled it. And the future is bright.
It's funny because people, they mostly relate overpressure zones to conventional plays, but there's research done. Like I've seen stuff through Icon Science, Icon Geoscience, where they were doing kerogen typing and then overburden sedimentation rates to see where there's overpressured reservoirs or overpressured parts of the unconventional reservoirs in shale plays. And those would be the hot spots, sweet spots.
There was a correlation between kerogen and a sediment volume.
Yes. So there's,
top of the zone.
You know, depending on where the sediment's been laid down in the deposition cycle back in the Permian age, when you know, like Wolfcamp's getting laid down, for example. If there's a gravity flow turbidite deposit where you've got, you know, preferential deposition or just a bunch of slime mud getting laid down, you know, that area will have a greater pressure than somewhere where there's not a huge slump that happens. So that area should have more kerogen, more protein, and greater pressure relative to others.
Huh. Thinking about.
So that would be a function more, and I'm assuming it was more of an inversion type of work, right? So they would calculate all this and then they'd run inversion. Yeah. And it's that pore pressure work that they've done. I've seen that, and it's cool stuff. I mean, they're taking overburden values and they're taking, you know, the different kerogen porosity, and then they, on top of that, they throw in, I'm not sure if they run it using Young's or Poisson's, but then they take that and then they apply it to the seismic data.
Yes.
Yeah. You've seen it, Troy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think why the kerogen is building up underneath the sediment volume stacking abnormally thick in that area. I'm trying to.
It's probably conflation by me. I think it was kerogen typing, or the amount of kerogen is what leads to the differences in pressure from the hydrocarbon generation.
You got type 2, type 3 in the Permian Basin, right?
Yeah, primarily.
So there's a pressure anomaly with one or the other, is what Icon was ultimately identifying. Is that what you're saying, Neal?
Essentially so, yeah.
I think it's also a function of, you know, your percentage of total TOC, quote unquote.
Yeah, total organic content.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, total organic content combined and with the kerogen typing, right? And then from there they can run the inversion on it. But they're also, like Neal was saying, looking for these pockets where you have these turbidite zones, right? And now those zones are encased in one of those muds, and it's just a bunch of pressure just waiting to pop. As soon as that wellbore goes through, just it's coming through, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a finite thing that, you know, you have to use every parameter at your disposal to find them. I mean, when you're going lateral 2 miles away, it's like, all right, it could be there, it could be not. But according to this inversion, there's something funky that's going to happen, like in approximately like 100 feet.
3,
yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize with shale bodies is the heterogeneity that exists in a shale. People hear shale in school, they teach you shale, you know, it's just mud. That's it.
Completely wrong.
There is so much more to shale. And if you sit on a drilling rig in West Texas, mud logging, you really get to see the differences, you know, in a 10,000 foot section.
Right. You saw it, man. You saw it firsthand. And our geologic models are progressing, and we're going to come back to the Permian geologically with all kinds of different ideas and ways to make these predictions and ways to make better wells, ultimately find those pockets of porosity and permeability that seem to be the major contributors to the wellbore. Even if you have a 7,500 foot wellbore, there's probably only 500 feet of it that's actual like primo pay. The rest of those fracks were just complete waste of money, and they just.
That's true.
We didn't have the concepts, man. We didn't have the concepts geologically to debate the logical thinking of an engineer. That's how I see it.
To fight the mining operation,
right?
That's what it was, right? You know, we're in development mode. It's
you
know, we're gonna drill it all up, we're gonna pop it all, and then we're gonna try to get as much of it back.
Yeah.
instead of optimizing and being efficient. Hey, we need to drill 8 wells in this section. No, we actually only need to drill 2.
Yep.
You know, that's a thought, but
man, how much acreage has been condemned on that? Wow. I mean and that's the reality
expensive
of the
acreage,
right?
Yeah, very expensive.
Yeah, they're paying $40,000 an acre. Oh, we're gonna drill eight wells in each zone. We got 5 stack zones. So now you're talking about fucking, what is that? 45 wells or whatever the hell it is. 40 wells. It's just, man, it was the time of blowing and going, man, and then we all got to witness that come to a halt. What's your perspective on that, Neal? As you were leaving the Permian again with another crash, 4 or 5 years later, and where are you at?
Yeah, January was a tough. Well, it was good and bad, right? I'm an existentialist. I'm an amateur philosopher on top of anything else. And I get to choose my attitude and my perception of life. So sitting there in a drilling rig gives you a lot of time to think for yourself and think to yourself. Maybe it drove me crazy. Maybe it drove me sane. Either way, I thought a lot. And sitting there and watching some of this stuff happen, there is a lot of waste, a lot of wasted effort involved with hydraulic fracturing shale, everything that goes into it.
Yep.
And it's labor intensive. The things that it takes to make a horizontal well are entirely different than what it takes to make a vertical well. And if you do enough time exploring for conventional reservoirs or exploring within conventional reservoirs, I think that there's more room for profit in looking to drill offset wells from reservoirs that already exist that have kind of gone by the wayside because of the scale. In a shale body, you can scale, Wolfcamp A, 100 feet thick, that's laterally extended throughout an entire basin, throughout, 300 miles long and 150, 200 miles wide.
Right. Delaware.
That's a volume that I can't do that in my head. I don't know what volume of that.
Well, the USGS came out and was like, yeah, it's billions and billions of barrels of oil and TCF of gas, and going, you're never going to touch it.
But that's so unrealistic.
Right.
And you don't get to see that until you're sitting well site or you've driven through the Permian and you've spent time going from all the different rigs and all the different towns. And just to me, how unrealistic that is.
mm-hmm.
So when it crashed, I had seen enough shale to be happy with my experience. And I've seen enough stringers of limestone to know that what I'm looking at isn't a carbonate depositional environment and that it's probably carried in from somewhere else. And I still have pieces of rock that came up over the shaker table from, collapse within the wellbore.
Wow.
And, I chose to be happy and I went skiing. I got a job at a ski resort in Taos, Mexico. And it was time to go.
Dude, out of all that, I love the fact that you said, you have the psychology, you have the ability to choose how you feel, to choose your perspective. And that is why I believe we're even doing this show at all, man, because you have the perspective that a lot of people can gravitate towards and really understand and respect, and then just get after it, man. You have those experiences. You've built that list of experience or that attribute that you provide to the next person who gives you the opportunity to work for them. Don't forget those things. Articulate them in the way that they want to hear them, and you got the next job right in front of you. But
I bet Skips, when you did IVA, you probably foresaw yourself sitting in a nice, cushy office downtown Houston, working for Shell, Exxon, BP, whoever.
Oh no way, man!
No?
I wouldn't do well at a super major. I like the small shop mentality. I mean, that's where Troy and I were working, and I like that personable environment where you not only know everyone on your team, but you know everyone in the office. You know the person working the front desk. you know all the landmen, you know all the accountants, and that family feeling is something that I like a lot more. And I wouldn't do well. I wouldn't do well at a super major. I know that.
I was gunning. I was kicking on the doors, not taking no for an answer, and just kept getting railroaded. But you know, that's the difference between, and it's in who you know sometimes versus what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know, it's up to more than just the human being at work to get to where they want to get to in life sometimes. And I've gotten to experience that. And I'm not going to let a global downturn hold me back.
That's right, man.
And that's the biggest thing that I've come to see out of all this is that, you know, maybe my chance to go work for a super major might not be there. But, you know, thank God that there's the ability to do stuff like working a mom and pop shop, to put together, you know, independent place, to seek out the entrepreneur that's, you know, within most geologists' hearts. It's, you know, we're seeking treasure. We are treasure hunters. We're trying to find, you know, within this funny planet that we're sitting on, where is there a resource that we can go find that is shiny, that has some sort of fun return in the end? You get a prize.
That's right. So, not only personally, but you have something to contribute to. You're contributing to efficient energy of the world in the oil and gas industry. You're contributing to the metals industry in order to continue to drive the cell phone technology and TV technology. Everything we do as geoscientists is amazing. Hydrologists, environmental, everything. It's a rewarding situation to put yourselves in as a geoscientist. No question about it, man. And now you're back in Michigan.
Michigangsta.
Right. Michigangsta.
The wild, wild east.
Oh man, I didn't see that coming. All right, so the Michigan Basin's cool, man. It's not the Permian, but for a little hole in our planet in the northern United States, next to the Great Lakes, there's a lot of production. A lot of production out of this little thing.
It's about the same size of the Permian Basin.
Michigan Basin?
Yeah, it's about 300 miles long and 150 miles wide.
It
extends from the upper peninsula of Michigan, the entire lower peninsula.
I was just looking at the state. Yeah, you're right.
It goes underneath the lakes into Wisconsin and it kicks over into Ontario. And it stops around northern Indiana and northern Ohio and northern Illinois.
Wow. Pull a map up so people can see this thing.
Yeah.
What's
Google machine? Did you know it was P-Dog's birthday today?
Yeah, man. I sent him a very questionable happy birthday message. and to all the listeners, whenever you hear this, send P-Dog a very questionable happy birthday message.
Hell yeah.
Well, we've got a few to choose from. Let's look at the one that looks most complicated.
That one looks like fun. I like colors.
Man.
Save images.
Big ass hole just sitting there. They're just packed full of oil and gas.
Packed. So here we kick over, you know, all this, and then we don't get Canada because, well, the poor Canadians aren't Americans. But this extends.
So they're producing
Illinois, Indiana.
Yeah.
You know, here's Illinois. This is Indiana. This is Ohio, and this is Canada, and it kicks out all the way around to Peru.
So and this is a Paleozoic age basin, correct? That's when we were dumping sediment into this thing.
Devonian. Yep.
I mean, on the outskirts, you got Silurian, Ordovician.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, real deep.
The big reefs, everything that everyone talks about are these Niagaran aged reefs, which is Niagaran is one of the subset ages in the Silurian. So there's all these Silurian aged reefs, and you know they're peripheral around the basin as water was influxing in and out.
Where was the influx coming from in a perfectly circular basin?
In the south, there's two arches. There's the Kankakee Arch in Illinois and the Cincinnatian Arch in Ohio. And that fed or allowed water to come in and out depending upon, I guess, probably this glaciation that occurred in the Silurian. And then whatever tectonics were happening. Let water go in and out. So within the Silurian age, there's this peripheral reefs based upon water depth. And those Silurian age reefs, they would come in on, what the max pumping rate was allowed from the state of Michigan. Every single one of them. It's 250, 200 barrels plus a day, all of them, with gas, natural gas too.
Vertical wells, perf zone of tens of feet or
And they
hundreds of
pop.
feet.
They're convex, they and if you have 3D seismic, they just 2D seismic. You see it plain as day. Which means most of them have been found too, unfortunately.
I don't know. I think EOR is a great place to put some future investment in, and go back and just treat these things right, based on,
or just going back and reworking the data, right? Not only just for improving recovery on the wells that you have, but what did we miss? Because there's always something that you could have missed. I mean, that's the mentality you need to have looking at any prospect that comes across the table.
Yep.
Big time, especially with the basin is brine rich. There's fluid throughout every reservoir, which my reservoir engineering at the Michigan Basin is pretty lacking. But I would assume that since there's so much brine throughout the state and the basin, that they're all water driven, which allows for some give and take with reservoir engineering too.
Man, this is just a geological wonder.
That would be an awesome map to have up on your wall,
right?
Like the more and more I look at that, yeah, it looks sweet.
Yeah,
it looks like modern art.
It is modern art. It just happens to be like 300 million years old.
Yeah,
right. The massive body of carbonate and dolomite in the Silurian and Devonian, right?
Yeah. So the Trenton Formation it's throughout all of the Michigan Basin, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. And the Trenton is something that's been pretty heavily drilled and worked all throughout. It's in the Michigan Basin, it's made hundreds of millions of bulk, at least 150 million barrels, more so than that. There's one field that made 150 million barrels.
Gosh, dang.
And central Indiana, central Ohio, where it borders, hundreds of millions of barrels. That's what put Standard Oil and Marathon on the map, the Ohio Oil Corporation.
Wow.
And that's all Trenton.
Wow.
And that's all overlain by the great blanket that is the Devonian Black Shales.
So there is Devonian Black Shale across this thing in the...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So you can see my mouse, right?
Yeah.
So the Antrim Shale is one of the, it's time equivalent to like New Albany, which is a shale body throughout Indiana and Ohio.
That's happening over the cross of the top of the Dolomite?
Yeah.
Is that upper or lower Devonian? I'm assuming it's upper.
It's upper Devonian.
Okay.
And this is called the Antrim Shale, and it's a biogenic gas play in Michigan. And all the glaciers that came down from Canada and across put water as the glacial meltwater was melting and traversing and infiltrating all the sediment. It carried with it bacteria, and those bacteria got into the natural fractures from tectonics in the Antrim. So all the kerogen in the Antrim were getting eaten by this bacteria, and then the bacteria would respirate, fart, and that was methane. So there's all these methane wells that will never die.
They just keep farting.
Yeah, keep farting. So
the
the bacteria might be gone, or not. The bacteria is still there, but the glaciers are gone. But still to this day, the evidence of the glaciation is there with all these massive, sediment deposits. So there's glacial till covering everything across Michigan. And I think the Trenton is Ordovician age, by the way.
Okay. Old, really old. And PBE is going to take a minute and examine and study this completely. And then we might just pull out a sideshow of a geologic interpretation of this freaking amazing geology, because it's so badass. And it goes with the show. I mean, it would make a cool show. Take whatever, half a day, and we could talk about some really cool stuff. Look at the production, the trends relative to structure, all that stuff that we do. I think
take a look at the grav mag, see what's going on there.
Man, can you imagine gravity over that thing?
There is. They have gravity for the entire state because there's a huge rift down the middle of it.
Mid-continent
I was
rift,
gonna
man.
say, is that sitting on a huge mag high in like the middle of that thing?
Right here. There is a magnetic anomaly from the mid-continent rift, and it goes up into Lake Superior, where the center, the three-leg kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
That's right in the middle, and it goes down Wisconsin and up into.
That's something I just got to dive into.
Let's
it's just
do
that
it.
mid-continent rift, man. Just learn as much about that as possible, because it seems to affect everything.
Yes,
You know?
it arguably goes through the Permian Basin.
Yeah, well, quote unquote, like depending on which paper you're reading, it does.
Yep.
And some say it could be.
All right.
It goes through fucking Oklahoma, the Nemaha Ridge. Yeah. It thing cuts through the whole damn North America. It's insane. I mean, dude, we're doing it, Skippo. I don't know what time, I don't know when, but we are. We're diving into the Michigan Basin.
If there's a time to do it, I guess now would be the time.
Right? What else?
You got volcanics, you have copper, all the copper deposits that are up through the Keweenaw Peninsula, and the
copper play
implications from the mid-continent rift for economic geology is great.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
They say that no one can really explain the thermal maturity of the Michigan Basin. It's not really been defined. Some people claim that it's from the mid-continent rift, and then all the hydrothermal flow from the rifting event, and all the hot water that's left over from it.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's where we're
Flip the rocks.
Those are the glasses I'm putting on. Hydrothermal geology. I want to know everything about it in this whole, and we'll come from that perspective. Kind of not unspoken, but a rare geologic interpretation that has a lot of hydrothermal in it. That's what I'm going to focus on with this thing and see what pops out when we do that. So that's going to be badass. No matter what happens with this show, we're getting some badass geology done in Michigan Basin for sure.
Bam.
For sure.
Rocks.
Man, well, I think that sets us up for, although we didn't really talk about anything that have to do with cryptocurrency in the conception part of this show, and now that we're going to drill down into cryptocurrency, is there any?
We're geologists. This is how we. This is the bridge. We're going into cryptocurrency.
All right,
it's mining. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
mining copper in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan's greatest economic resource at the moment that's being mined is sediment. It's all the glacial deposits of aggregate resources. The aggregate resources in the state of Michigan are gigantic.
Dude.
And that's what's being mined the most currently in the state of Michigan are aggregate resources.
Wow.
So,
nice.
You can't make money mining aggregate resources. You might as well mine cryptocurrencies.
Let's go. That's a good transition. So this is it, man. The drill down segment with Neal Turluck coming out of the Michigan Basin right now, fresh, live, with the right attitude. The man has the right attitude, and he's going to teach us about Bitcoin. And again, we're going to start asking some questions to try to better understand the whole problem of cryptocurrency. And let's give it a shot, Neal. Let's hear it.
First off, forgive me for correcting you. It's not a problem. There's no problem with cryptocurrency. The problem is with society. I blame society, man. Society is the one who has the problem.
All right, I'm buying it.
It's trust. The big thing with cryptocurrency is that society currently, the human concept as a whole, doesn't have trust in a non-tangible asset.
Right.
So cryptocurrencies are digital electronic currencies. They're just that. It's a medium for exchange.
Yep.
So whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, you know, Dogecoin or Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, you know, your favorite one, Skips, Dogecoin.
Yeah.
Now, there's a legit reason why there is a reservation to cryptocurrency, because, you know, what happens if for some reason you get some kind of electromagnetic attack on whatever, and we shut down completely and you don't have the electricity to access the whole system? You know, that's somewhat of a legit concern with it.
But that same concern can be held just the same way for the modern banking system, because most of the modern banking system is just trading zeros between bank accounts. How often have you gotten paid in cash for any of the work you've done as a working professional, as a geologist?
Right.
I've been paid in cash as a working professional when I was chopping firewood around the state of Michigan. There was, you know, a cash business that I engaged in. I got paid in cash when I worked at a deer processor in the state of Michigan. But when I was mud logging, I was never paid in cash. Everything that I got were electronic direct deposits.
Right.
And the bank rarely that I've done, you know, business transactions with, I don't pay cash anymore for almost anything. It's a debit card.
Yeah.
Or I use my phone at Starbucks. I walk up and the screen's there.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
You know, I've got the smartphone and I go, bam, yeah, order before I get there, go in, bam, I walk out. It's
with your latte.
The tide of the times is that's probably the direction we're going.
Makes sense.
I've gone into Starbucks and not talked to anybody, gone in, gone out, and I'm out. You know, in Chicago, I'm not trying to say that it's a hands-off city. I was going to say, you know, in Chicago, you don't have to talk to anybody or do anything, but that's not true. There's a lot more resources that are being developed for us to be hands-off, touch-free, digital. You know, the industrial revolution in technology is here, and we're seeing it with cryptocurrency.
Well, and you bring up, go ahead, Skips.
Oh no, and I was kind of to tail off that, and the biggest reservation I think with any cryptocurrency is just the unfamiliarity with it, right? Everyone's so used to this currency system based on, you know, either the gold standard or this country, right? But even the countries or the federal currency isn't even backed by, in theory, anything anymore, right? So I can see where that reservation is, but there's also a lot of benefits that come with Bitcoin or just, you know, any kind of cryptocurrency.
Yeah. And I was going to chime in on, you just said it real quickly, Neal. It was the kind of how did you say it? A touch free?
Hands free. You know, there's no
Apple Pay
involved.
We're potentially in a touch-free environment right now, where we might be squeezing into a touch-free society where people are going, man, I don't know if it's a good idea to live on top of each other anymore. And are we going to spread out as a society across the world? And do we need, if we are transitioning to a more touch-free environment or touch-free society, then how much more benefit could it be to have that touch-free currency?
So, you know, jumping off that, today I did a transaction of Bitcoin. I sent so each person, you know, just as you have a wallet in your back pocket, you can have as many wallets as you want with cryptocurrency. And the wallet is where you hold your cryptocurrency at. And that's encrypted. The only person that can get into it is you. They cannot be broken into. It's statistically impossible that a wallet that you have on your hard drive or on a thumb drive or even on paper, getting the cryptocurrency stolen out of your wallet is nearly impossible. Whereas getting your cash stolen out of your wallet is essentially really easy. Or getting access to your debit card, credit card could be very simple. Mm-hmm. So it's far more secure. But, you know, from that, transferring Bitcoin from my wallet to a wallet on, you know, let's say Skip's hard drive, I sent about $300 worth of Bitcoin today for, like 20 some odd cents. And it was sent, the transaction was completed in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. And
Wow.
there's another cryptocurrency that I sent the other day. It was for roughly $700 in an altcoin called Elko. And I sent about $700 worth of Elko to my wallet. And it was done in less than a minute. And it cost fractions of a penny.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And you do a bank transaction, send a what is it, the wire transfers. Do a wire transfer. It's going to cost you a lot of money, $100 or so to send $1 million, and it's going to take 2 or 3 days. To me, that just seems crazy.
I'm following. I mean, what you're saying is making sense. I'm following. And it's more efficient. It is secure if you understand the how it's encrypted and what that means. That there's it's practically impossible to get into. So I mean, it all sounds good. I think there's definitely a huge population of folks that are like it's a no brainer, but there's still that reservation we have as a culture, and not just in this country, but in many that still have this reservation. But let's break down the walls, Neal. Educate us, man. Take us to school. What do we need to know about Bitcoin? What do we need to know about cryptocurrency where we can now move forward with a little more ease?
Well, Bitcoin is just that. So Bitcoin is the gold standard of currency. So just like the American dollar used to be backed by gold, now it's backed by bonds. So it's a promise for a promise to pay people back from the Federal Reserve System to the United States government and their ability to tax us as United States citizens. Bitcoin is a finite currency. There's only going to be so much of it. What they call the hash rate or the mining rate was just halved. So it started off with every mining block solved. With every block of the blockchain solved, you get 50 Bitcoin as a reward for mining it or securing the transactions that have occurred through each block. And through time, so it's gone down from 50 to 25, and then went from 25 to 12 and a half. And recently, it just went from 12 and a half to 6.25. So in another, I think it's 4 years, it'll go from 6.25 to 3.125, and then, down and down and down until it's impossible. It's a logarithmic scale. Yeah. So all the miners will be doing is ensuring and securing each transaction. And with every transaction, when I sent that Bitcoin to myself, it cost whatever, 30 cents, whatever, to send $300. That 30 cents is then given to the miners. So who's ever mining that block and gets that block reward, now they get the block reward of the Bitcoin of the 6.25, and then the transaction fees for that block. So in the future, when Bitcoin is essentially unmineable, you will have the rewards in the transfer fees within that block.
So is the transfer fee based off a percentage, or is it based on, or is it's a flat? Oh, it is a percentage. So it isn't a flat rate. So the more you transfer in Bitcoin, the higher that rate is.
Well, no. The rate's the same. It's a flat percentage.
Oh, it is a flat. Okay.
Yeah. So if I send $1 million, it'll be like, $10 or $100. I don't know how much it'd be. But
right. And you send
$300 was like 30 cents. So whatever that is, thousands.
But what Skips is getting at is, so you sent $300, that was 30 cents or whatever. You send $3,000, that's $3.
Yeah.
There's some, yeah. Okay.
Which is still far cheaper than whatever wire transfer exists in the world, or ability to transfer between banks or from firm to firm, which is still going to be the people involved with doing the work. And transferring money digitally through cryptocurrencies removes a lot of the human element, a lot of the human error, and then makes every transaction far cheaper because there's fewer human beings involved and less technology involved.
This is the mining community.
The mining community. This is anybody. This is me and you. This is, Skips Detroit. You want to send, Skips $100 because you guys made a bet on the Phillies game and the Nationals won. And Troy, you wanted the Nationals to lose, and Skips is a huge Phillies fan, so you owe him $100.
Your analogy brings up another reservation I feel like people have, is that it's like this kind of a dark thing. Like you can trade, cryptocurrency is not trackable, and that you brought up an analogy of betting, and that's like, hold on, betting.
It's not trackable. Well, it is trackable, the entire ledger. So every transaction that happens is it's put down in a ledger. So just as the banks have records of their transactions, walk into your bank, go into Wells Fargo in the Western United States and say, hey, I want to see every transaction that's occurred within the bank today. I want to see every transaction that's occurred within my bank account and everything that's tied to the people within my bank account. They may or may not choose to give you that information. With your bank account, you'll get it. But, with the stuff that's ancillary to your bank account, maybe you won't get it. Maybe the people that are paying into your bank account, you won't be able to see who's paying them. Well, with Bitcoin, with every cryptocurrency, the blockchain is open. It's open source. If you have internet access, you can use it. If you have internet access, you can see the blockchain. You can see who's paid who. Every single transaction that has occurred, you can see it. It's an open public record for the world to see.
Yeah.
So if you have wallet, the wallet IDs, the wallet addresses are a combination of numbers and letters, and they're special cased so they can be capsized or lowercase, uppercase, lowercase. So it's, XQ, lowercase f, uppercase, G, 783816, lowercase x.
That was the
send that to, 143EGH capital P. And, that transaction is recorded in the blockchain and is secured by the miners. And that's for cryptocurrencies that do proof of work. So proof of work has the miners, the people mining, all the big supercomputers doing the mining, and that allows the blockchain to be built, and then all of the transactions.
And that brought up another thought when we did this the first recording. We talked about how there's all this energy being burned off in the Permian Basin with the flaring. And there are companies running around the Permian Basin that have the ability to say, let me strap up some generators to where you're flaring that off. I'll pay you at least a little bit of money for that gas. And I'm going to keep this big building I have out in the middle of the desert super cold and clean with filters and everything because there's a supercomputer inside of it mining cryptocurrency. I mean, that's innovation.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself is gigantic. And when I was sitting down there this past time, and I was Googling, looking on LinkedIn stuff, I chatted with people on LinkedIn who say they can operate mobile units, but liquidity into it is tough. And the hardest part, now we've got 5G that's going throughout the Permian Basin, but having the connection to the network, to the internet, to transfer, to have the bandwidth to transfer that much data is tough. And that's the big holdback with cryptocurrency mining in the Permian Basin, is that you need to have high bandwidth. It cannot be run currently with satellites connection to the internet. You need to have direct
fiber optic,
the whole game,
the whole setup.
Damn. Let's get into.
What makes mining
I was going to say, because we were talking about how some companies are paying for Waha to take their gas, right? Because they ran out of their flare permit ran out, right? And they can't dispose of it directly into the atmosphere. So it's like, well, shoot, we have all this gas, we have no way to store it. Like, we either build this $1 billion cryo unit and, at least like separate the NGLs, but we still have this dry gas that we still need to do something with.
Right.
And it's just, I think it was a fascinating solution to that problem, but I had no idea about, it needs to be grounded. It can't be done by like a satellite connection in the middle of the desert.
Because the whole thing is the rewards. If you're not getting the rewards, then you're not getting paid. And the whole thing about Bitcoin is, and every cryptocurrency that's mineable, is the reward and the return through, because otherwise you're just doing the whole world a favor and spending a lot of money.
So let's get a high level discussion going on the concept of what the computer's doing to make a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or altcoin, whatever you want to use, and then let's just end it with this blockchain and smart contracts and kind of the justifying the efficiency of this thing.
So I want to show you some pictures. Of what creates blockchain? What makes blockchain? What makes cryptocurrency? There's two ways. There's proof of work. There's proof of stake. But that all stems from blockchain. So the blockchain is run by an algorithm, and every cryptocurrency is just trying to solve an algorithm. All it is a math problem, a math equation that it's increasingly harder to solve. So Bitcoin has its own algorithm, Ethereum has its own algorithm, and then each of those have their own blockchain. Most cryptocurrencies that they call altcoins piggyback off something that's similar to or of the same blockchain that is Bitcoin or Ethereum. I spent some time in the fall of 2017 and early in the winter of 2018, before I started the IBA, building Ethereum mines. So I myself have mined, and the miners look something like this. So when you go into a mining operation, you'll see a bunch of wires, cables, and everything set up, big electrical panels, because it requires a lot of energy. And then this is another example. So this is all tied into the internet, to a network of what they call a share pool. And, here's probably 15 graphics cards. Here's another 15 to 20 graphics cards. Each of these little racks have 6 each, so there's another 12. And with those, they're all solving this algorithm. We're trying to solve the algorithm to get the mining block reward. And that mining block reward has tied to it the blockchain. And that blockchain, it starts off with what they call the Genesis block. So the first block within Ethereum, they call the Genesis block. And from that block starts the algorithm. The algorithm will not stop. The blockchain will not stop. It will always keep going. So with that blockchain, with that algorithm, they measure it in what they call the hash rate. So the ability to solve for the algorithm, the ability to secure each transaction is called a hash rate. So there's different miners that exist. The computer, laptop that's sitting in front of you, or desktop that's sitting in front of you, will have a slower hash rate than the graphics cards. And then they make special computers, special mining units called ASICs, and that will have a higher hash rate because it has higher computing capacity. So as time goes by, as it gets harder and harder to solve and harder to confirm each transaction, you have to have hardware to keep up with the different supercomputers' hash rates. So we all know that this cryptocurrency is secure based upon the blockchain. So each hash gets solved or gets added to the blockchain and each block gets added to the blockchain. So we've got Genesis block 1, which gets secured and it gets kicked to Genesis or to the block 2. So then it just goes on, and each block is measured. And I don't know what block Bitcoin is at, but I have a cryptocurrency holding called Elko, and they're at block like 280 some odd thousand, and they started in the summer of 2017. So, in almost 3 years, they've worked through 200,000 blocks. Bitcoin started, I think, in 2011 or 2009. I think the paper came out in 2009. Cryptocurrency started in 2011. So they're 9 years old. So their blockchain is, probably in the millions. And each of these blockchains has a hash, and that hash has a unique identifier. And that unique identifier is what makes the cryptocurrency 100% secured, because you cannot repeat that block. Once that block is in place, once that block gets put in the blockchain, it's being confirmed as an asset by every single computer that's out there on the network. So the blockchain you can't break it, right? Because you would have to break 1 million computers that are all mining Bitcoin. And that's what makes blockchain so great, is that you've got 1 million resources all trying to create and make the blockchain, and each one is incentivized to create the blockchain based upon the rewards. So it's finite, and it's almost impenetrable, because you would have to hack 500,000 computers all anonymous or autonomously running anonymously. You don't know who they are. They're running by themselves, and they're all working on the same problem.
This blockchain.
This blockchain.
That's basically the foundation of the currency exchange, the validity and the validation, the ledgers being built.
The ledger, making sure, that the transfers are correct, and then also, the reward system, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the next slide, we can, goes into it and pretty much what I just said. Troy, Skip's got, a sweet 68 Corvette that's mint and cherry. It's been sitting in the deserts in northern Utah. There's not a spot of rust. He takes it out, wow, polishes it. Thing is gorgeous. It's your favorite color, whatever. What's your favorite color, Troy?
Yellow.
It's a yellow. Yellow yak, yellow Benz.
I'm in, man. I'm in.
Yeah.
A yellow vet. I don't know about that one, dude.
I'm gonna have one in my life just because of this conversation.
Well, you're sitting out there just trying to get rid of this yellow vet that no one wants, and Troy's been desperately waiting for you to sell this, and he wants to send you 10 Bitcoin for it, and you just can't wait. So you're like, hey, send me 10 Bitcoin, Troy, and you've got this Corvette all day. So the title is sitting in the blockchain. The title's sitting ready to be transferred to Troy, and the only thing Troy has to do is send you 10 Bitcoin. So you send the request, send me 10 Bitcoin. Troy sends the 10 Bitcoin. Computers mine it. The transaction between you two gets validated within the blockchain by the miners. The transaction that has occurred, the contract between you two, is secured within the network, and then it sends that block to the blockchain. And when that blockchain it's created, when it gets secured within the network, which takes anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on where you're at within the blockchain, the title gets released. Troy gets the title, and then it's on you to get the car.
This is where the smart contracts kind of stuff comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So within that blockchain, you can have whatever you can code, whatever you can write within the blockchain, which then creates, like the ability to have a smart contract.
But that only works in Ethereum, correct?
That
for the time being.
Not just Ethereum. but anything, well, the Bitcoin can have it too, yeah. But I'm sorry, no. It has to be dependent.
That has to be in the initial program, correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It has to be an initial algorithm. So Bitcoin doesn't have that. Bitcoin is just a currency, whereas Ethereum has the algorithm and the ability for the proof of work that involves building in smart contracts. Because the smart contract, it's just piggybacking. It's going along for the ride with, the blockchain that's Ethereum.
Transactions complete.
Good
Bang,
call,
bang.
Sticks. Nailed it.
Go take your yellow vet, dude.
I can't wait to have a badass yellow vet because I'm in.
Dude, it's got to be blue or Steel City gray. Talking
Steel
about a 60.
City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow.
All right, man. I mean, that's definitely pretty high level and a quick way to explain what this community is doing. And it's funny, they're called miners and you're staking things. I mean, it's really, the concept is still based on the physical understanding of staking claims and mining metals. I mean, or is it just kind of taking the terms and kind of changing them a little bit and using them?
Geologically.
Is it similar though? Like when you said staking the
well, there's proof of work, there's proof of stake. So proof of stake doesn't require miners at all. Proof of stake, there's an algorithm that's being used, there's an algorithm that's been written, and you don't have to mine it. So it's just based on the algorithm and it's based on the blockchain. So if you have, I've got Elko as what they call a master node. So each of these nodes is a part of the network, and the nodes you essentially deposit your cryptocurrency into this network of master nodes. And each node, let's say, has 10,000 Elko in it. And Elko is just another cryptocurrency. It's an altcoin. Those nodes then allow for each transaction to happen faster, because if you're requesting 500 Elko from me, the network can just go grab 500 Elko from this node and send 500 Elko from that node, and then it gets replaced by a different transaction here. So the proof of stake allows for faster transactions because there's more of the currency itself specific to that currency. You can't send like Elko to Ethereum or Ethereum to Elko. You have to send within the currency itself, just like you can't send US dollar to the Chinese yuan. It has to be within that cryptocurrency. But anyway, those transactions are so much faster because there's just latent currency sitting, waiting. And the reason you let your currency sit and wait is that the proof of work gets paid by mining. The proof of stake gets paid by staking, or allowing the cryptocurrency you're holding to wait transactions to occur.
Got it.
That's pretty cool. It works a lot better. It's a lot faster. And that's the future. The proof of work, the Bitcoin is going to be Bitcoin. That will always be around. Ethereum has changed and altered their algorithm to go from proof of work to proof of stake. And, that's the big push looking forward for most cryptocurrencies. They're almost all proof of stake. It takes away all the mining, the energy output that is incurred with having to have a bunch of computers that need to be cooled, hardware that breaks down and dies. The miners that I had essentially died. The graphics cards became unusable, unmineable, and one of the rigs was just trash.
Damn.
Yeah, it sucked.
Wow. Man,
So
all right.
The proof of stake removes everything. That's off the network.
Runs off the network.
Yeah.
Man, I was following for sure. There's some stuff that goes over my head, and I'll keep pounding my head against the wall, trying to figure it out and keep up with all of this stuff as we're transitioning to whatever the new currency is going to be. There's always change, and we gotta adapt to it and embrace it. That's what we're learning in this.
And I think we touched on this in the last show a little bit, but you know, the times that we're living in now, right, where the dollar is losing value exponentially, right? Because we're printing out so much money. I mean, the inflation is just insane, right? And using a cryptocurrency, you don't have that inflation, right? There is a set amount of Bitcoin that can be made. And so in doing that, it's a much more stable form of currency, right? In theory.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I definitely think now, especially like as we're getting, like you said, you know, hands are just, you bring your phone up, bang, your wallet's right there, and then you get your Starbucks and you leave. You don't even talk to the lady. You don't even have to sign a receipt. Bang, you're gone. Right? As the society is changing, I think, you know, the assimilation of cryptocurrency is going to become much more prominent in the future. And I brought this up in the last show. It's like you can buy a Chevy Silverado with cryptocurrency. It's just so other like major companies and corporations are taking this as valid payment.
Yeah, they have to, because it's the only way. I mean, the only way forward is a digital currency. You can't turn what is a diamond back into coal. Like there's just, it would be, so there's like Korea, South Korea, there's no more. Yeah. Sort like countries like Korea have already started implementing paying within their government and paying employees in Bitcoin. There were times, in like 2012, 2013, where municipalities had started paying people in Bitcoin. To have that immediate transaction of we want it now and we want it in our hands world. You know, if you go somewhere and the service isn't provided on your timeline, how often do people go back? Mm-hmm. The patience in society is pretty much dying. And a part of that is due to the increase in technology. And for a lot of us, what's more important than having that paycheck and having that paycheck come quickly and knowing that it's going to be secure too and worthwhile? Because I have noticed recently that the Federal Reserve has printed, $4 or $5 trillion of funny money. It's just getting shotgunned into our economy. And with the cryptocurrency, that can never happen. The asset is valued based upon the ability for it to be traded and its finite resource. Mm-hmm. So, where is the use within it and how much of there can there be? So that's what makes cryptocurrency worthwhile, is because we can all use it. It can be used anywhere around the world. A person in Indonesia can send, 0.07185 Bitcoin to someone in Bolivia, and they can do business, make trades, and potentially provide an income from anywhere, as long as there's access to the internet.
Yeah. Man. So let's roll up the completion part of this show, dude, as economic geoscientists and knowing that there's always going to be a value in our ability to find natural resources as geoscientists, whether it's fresh water, it's rare earth elements, it's gold, it's copper, it's oil and gas, it's energy. There's always going to be something. And so I think the parallel with all this is that it's an exciting time in geoscience. It's an exciting time across every language that we have these resources. We just now need to figure out the most efficient way to get them and it has a direct impact on how our countries do with economically. We can't rely on spending billions, trillions of dollars on buying this metal that we need. We got to find it ourselves, and I think the future is incredibly bright, and it's an exciting time for us as young professionals and moving forward with all this hope and all this potential as geoscientists. At the same time, we're going to live through this transformation. We're going to live through this transformation of this physical money and now cryptocurrency or whatever, and that's cool. What do you got on that?
I was expecting just like you were going, and I was expecting you to bring the hammer down, and then you ended like
handed it out. I handed it over to somebody.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, I mean, and you pull up the smart contracts.
Smart contracts, all that mining, everything that has to do with what the future of mining can be, can stem from what they call security tokens and from smart contracts. So your big gold production, your big copper production, everything that will create, promise for this technological future that we're going to have can be based upon funding huge, gigantic mines that could exist in Utah and Arizona, in Nevada, throughout Alaska. There's unknown resources. The future mine can be funded throughout the world by people in Kazakhstan, in the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia, when they have connection to the internet and can get within the network. They can invest in, Skips and Tittlemeyer Industries. They can send to your smart contract or to your security token 38 Ethereum. And that 38 Ethereum could be worth, in Indonesian dollars, 58 cents. But for that person who's only making, in US dollars, $500 a year, that could be the beginning of their retirement account. And that could, in turn, help fund your new mine, your new industry. And once you have the amount that you need to start and run Skips and Tittlemeyer Industries, this new big mining venture out in, who knows, Alaska, then you can go start your fund. And each of those deposits will be reported in an open ledger, and each of those deposits can be paid back or paid a dividend because there's a unique identifier. And you don't know who that unique identifier is. All you have is a series of numbers and letters. And those numbers and letters are the address for you to return the amount of cryptocurrency that they invested with you that you kick back to them. So it allows for crowdfunding throughout the world, having smart contracts fulfilled within the blockchain and having security tokens being able to be bought on fractional scales, anywhere from fractions of a penny up to as much money as you can throw at it to fulfill the contract.
See, that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
It's exciting that we're in a time that there's all this stuff happening. We have this touch-free society essentially being developed, and companies are being scrambled up like crazy. I mean, I just heard that Weatherford could potentially completely go out of business, not just a reorganization of Chapter 7, or 11 or whatever it is, but completely out of business. So
they recently got out of Chapter 11.
Right. And yeah, that's a crazy, horrible place to be. However, if we are rebuilding and these companies are rebuilding and we are rebuilding these companies together, and now we're on these new trajectories, at the same time, stuff like this is developing on the sidelines for us to do this, for us to fund a program in some other country or of another country to fund our program. We are rebuilding, and at the same time, it seems like cryptocurrency is coming along with us, saying that we just want to help.
Well, the blockchain makes a lot of that become more economic. So, let's say you've got the Turluck operations, and I'm operating a bunch of oil and gas wells throughout Indiana. And I used Weatherford to do some enhanced oil recovery efforts, and I had them come out and work on all my surface equipment. Well, you know what? I'm kind of having tough times. I don't think I'm going to pay Weatherford. I don't want to get rid of that much cash that I have on hand. Well, with the blockchain, Weatherford would say, well, the only way that we're going to work with you, Turluck operations, is if you operate with us within the blockchain, within these smart contracts. So for them to come out and to work on my wells, I'll have to put down, 383 Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin will sit in escrow. Wow. And once they complete the work, and once their field operators go through and they punch, on their laptops or on their tablets, I've completed task A, B, and C. Here's the proof. Here's the evidence. My funds will go away, and Weatherford's field guys will get paid. Weatherford's bank accounts will have the deposit or not, the wallets will have the deposits for the service that was transpired. Every piece that you want to be put in can be put in the blockchain, and every receipt that you would ever need will be within the blockchain. The ledger will have it all, and you can be able to say, here is my payment, and here is that service. Each end that is currently a paper file or some electronic piece of paperwork can be all. But then this is done simultaneously and immediately as it's all taken care of. So there's no more wait time. There's no tickets that need to be punched. There's no paperwork that's being ran. It's all digital, electronic, and taken care of as it happens. So it's all real time. Yeah. The most you'll have to wait is hours.
Man.
So it takes, companies like Weatherford. I bet if everyone who owed them money paid them, they may not go Chapter 11. That's something where they'd save in administration fees, which is people's jobs, which is sad, but that removes a lot of cost and burden and allows for companies to exist on a greater scale and on a longer timeline.
That's cool, man. That's a great way to. You guys hearing that feedback right now?
Yeah.
You heard that?
I did hear that.
The heck's that coming from?
I don't know. It pops up randomly.
You were hearing it earlier?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was I. Thought it was just my headset.
Yeah, same.
Damn.
Or I thought I was like breathing weird into my mic.
Right? Yeah.
Which does happen from time to time.
I start drooling and breathing. All right. We ended that completion part of the show fantastically with Neal. And now we're going to end the completion part here. And we're going to just record the intro just real quick, maybe 5 minutes. Let's do this.
Can we get a really good let's go? I feel like the last one sucked.
Yeah, no, we got to.
Yeah, no. Yeah, hey, come back season.
Skip, I want to see that. We back.
We back. All right. On you, Troy.
3, 2, 1. Let's go, Neal! All right, that was
round 2.
Yes, that worked. I am the host of PBE Podcast, Troy Tittlemeyer, of course, joined by the Skips, the man, and a co-host. Sir, how are you? How are the arches? How's the weather?
Arches are great. Beautiful day out here again. I mean, fantastic. You can just see right through.
Wi-Fi's on point.
Wi-Fi's great. With everyone out of this national park, it's I'm having free reign right now. It's fantastic.
Well, man, we just had a badass show with Mr. Neal Turluck. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Troy. It's good to be here.
Man,
pleasure to have you back.
It's good to be back. You know, sometimes in life, you don't get do-overs. You don't get a second chance. Thank God.
At
for all of
PBE,
this.
At PBE, we're about second chances.
Yeah. The
Man.
silver medal of life.
Exactly.
dude, and this show was really, really cool on many levels, man. I'm a fan of Neal Turluck. I think you have the right attitude. I think the things you say on LinkedIn and the things that you say in conversation, honestly, just a solid young professional, good attitude, man. And the show was really about that. You persevered through two crashes, the latest two crashes, the oil and gas industry in the Permian from Michigan. Did it twice. You're now back in Michigan, and you still have the optimistic attitude that, one, we've talked about in the show. We have a great career as geoscientists, no question about it. Whether we're going to rely on cryptocurrency or the Federal Reserve of the US dollar, we have a future as geoscientists providing a value, a physical value of natural resources to the planet. And that's what this show was really all about, man. And I love that.
Yeah. I mean, the world is out there for our taking. And these are the times when people who are coming from nowhere, essentially. I'm sitting in a little village it's called Richland, Michigan. The last time I saw, there's 700 some odd people. The village itself is 1 square mile. To start from the bottom and to climb the ladder, it is a lot easier for people who have nothing to start off in a downturn. So for me, I see this as a great opportunity because I'm starting from the bottom and now we're here and I'm climbing. And there's no reason for any of us out there as geoscientists to see what's happening now as a negative, because you can turn what will be, a lot of economic loss into something that is for the greater good. Things can become more streamlined. Those who are innovative will be able to see and be able to find a way into the future and to be able to process what used to be quick. They'll be able to process it much faster. And, cryptocurrency, blockchain is the way to turn what's an antiquated system into a new way of life by using technology and by, helping to push the industry of both, oil and gas, mining and metals, environmental, everything that's involved with all of that is, primarily based upon the earth, our ability to work with it, and introducing technology. So the way that, the paper and the way that business is done, hopefully will start moving towards the past into a more technologically advanced route like smart contracts and blockchain.
Got to be naive to think that it's not going in that direction. It certainly is. Skippo, what was one of your favorite parts of the show we just did?
I mean, just discussing and going into detail as far as what is cryptocurrency and like specifically Bitcoin and just kind of breaking down, and making it simple for someone who is extremely unfamiliar and kind of standoffish against cryptocurrency. Like, how do you find value into something that isn't tangible, right? But in reality, all currency is intangible nowadays, right? We do have cash, but at the end of the day, the majority of the work being done is online, just online banking, right? Through direct deposits and just moving money around that way. And just kind of explaining, okay, these are the benefits of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever have you, and all the really cool things that you can bolt on with that, right? Yeah. And all the implications that can mean for the future. Yeah.
No, spot on, man. Well said by both you guys. For me, it was this epiphany, I guess, of the environment and the issues that everybody's dealing with, the problems that we all have right now. It's all being rebuilt. That's what it feels like. And I'm naturally an optimist, and I'm an economic geologist, so I'm naturally an optimist. But it feels like it's rebuilding, and now we have these tools that are complementing the people who are rebuilding this thing. And that's how I see cryptocurrency. It is it's a complementary piece to what we do as professionals and where we see this progression of building a new system that can't be broken down. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're getting after, man. And so that this show is badass. This show is awesome.
Yeah.
Neal's fucking awesome. You just listen to the whole thing. It's entertaining, and let's just get this show started. What do you guys think?
Game on. Let's get into it.
All
Rock
right.
and roll.
Right on. All right. So that's where it drops off. It goes to the conception, which we already recorded. And now we're just saying bye, guys. We did this.
It's been great. I see the record thing. In the
The
corner,
cat is back.
Yeah, the cat is back.
I keep getting headbutts on my shins. Someone wants attention.
Look how fat that little cat is.
Oh, she's not fat.
Come
She's
on.
just big bone. She can hear you.
Yeah, it was the winter hibernation. I understand.
Yeah.
It's valuable. Maybe for next year too. It's like that's the good news, right? 2 years back to back.
What's
Yeah.
the cat's name?
This is Stitches.
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 Oh,
What's
man,
going
Stitches is
on?
like,
oh, eye contact.
Yeah.
All right, Stitches and Neal from Michigan. You guys enjoy the rest of your days. Thanks again, man. It was an honor to share these microphones with you, dude. I'm excited for your future. I'm a fan of Neal Turluck, and I look forward to staying in touch, man.
Yeah,
Thanks,
hopefully the third time we do this will not be the same. We'll just be diving into Michigan Basin geology.
Yeah,
Michigan Basin, carbonates,
Yeah.
That's-
evaporite deposits, shales,
mud volcanoes.
copper, mud volcanoes,
Let's
mid-continent rifts,
go.
Great Lakes, glaciers, volcanoes,
Biogenic gas, all of the above.
bacteria farts.
let's do it all again, boys. I'm
Let's
digging
do
it.
it. Lock it in.
Right on, man. All right, with that being said, we're out. Skippo, is that what we say?